Hey Project Fam, do I have one for you today? Today I have a problem that turned into a project. The problem is my little white car there, my daily driver. It's been leaking vital fluid. It's been leaking coolant all over the place, and it's been leaking for a while. So I've been rolling the dice for a while now, and I have a decision. Do I take it in and let someone else fix it and just pay the money and write the check? Or do I try and fix it myself? Well, you know where this is going. I'm going to take a chance at it. Let's see how this works out. So I didn't drop any new videos last week, but prior to that, I was on a roll. Past 2 months, just video after video and short after short. A lot of good things. So if you're new to the channel, please take a moment and check out some of the older videos. All right, let's get into the project. So I went to AutoZone and borrowed, actually what you do is you borrow tools. So I borrowed a coolant or radiator pressure tester. So since I have a leak, I'm going to use this tool to pressurize the system, and where it's leaking, I will know. It's almost like a balloon. If you have a balloon and it has a pin-sized hole in it, and you blow up the balloon, you will find out where that balloon is losing air, and then you can plug up that hole somewhat. Well, that's what I'm doing now. I'm using this kit to pressurize my coolant system and find out where it's leaking. So I looked at my radiator cap and figured out the specifications on how much pressure can I put in there, and I'm putting in about 15 pounds of pressure. A lot of technical nonsense, but it's a lot of fun. And here I go. It's almost like putting air in your tire now that I think about it. So although I didn't capture it on video, but yes, it was leaking in 2 different places. So at this point, I knew I had to kind of jack it up and look underneath and see if I can find out where it's leaking, but I'm not going to bore you with all the details. This is not a how-to video. This is just a surface understanding of what I was going through trying to get this car fixed. And if you guys noticed, yeah, that other car is still in the garage. I always said to myself, I am not going to have 2 cars on jack stands in the garage, but there it is. That's where it's leaking from. So that's a good sign. At least I can figure out what the problem is. But yeah, I always said I wasn't going to have 2 cars in the garage at the same time, but I did. So after I figured out where it was leaking, I went shopping and I bought a bleeder hose. I can't believe that I had to get a bleeder hose. I'll tell you that story later. And I bought some heater hose. I bought 4 different lengths. They're all molded for my particular car. And I bought intake manifold hose. I think that's what it's called. It connects the air filter to the mass airflow sensor to intake manifold. And then I bought a spill-proof funnel kit so I can take my time and put coolant back in the system and bleed it to make sure there's no air. So yeah, I definitely went shopping, but if you don't have the right tools, then forget about even doing these jobs. And even before I did the job, I tried to figure out what tool I needed, and I went out and purchased it. And that is a hose clamp pliers that I bought off Amazon, and I think I returned it for different. And these are just some hose clamps and little pick tools to help with getting hoses that have been around for 10 plus years. Yep, that's a sharp one right there. So that's what I bought. I got all these tools to help. Okay, this is the tool, and this is why it's important. So I'll do a quick demo of why I had to get this special tool to release hose clamps. So hoses are clamped on to the car using these spring mounted clamps. And in order to release the tension on the spring, you have to squeeze it, almost like a pliers. You're squeezing it together. And as you squeeze it, it takes the tension off the clamp itself. Well, some of these clamps are in just like the worst positions in the car, underneath, behind, over and above. So I had to get this tool to help me to release the clamps that are located in just weird spots on the car. So this is what it's doing, and I think I'm just going to give you a quick tutorial on what it does. I squeeze it with the right hand. The jaws on the left will close, in essence, squeezing the spring so I can get it off. And here I am, just playing with it to make sure I know what I'm doing before I have to get in the car and do it blindly. But there it is. That's one of the cool tools I bought. And if you were watching, you saw me demonstrate how to clamp and pull off that little spring. See it right there? That little spring that I just took off with my left hand. If you don't see it, you'll have to visualize it. All right, now here I am, and I sped this up. This is me jacking up the car, taking off the engine cover. And if you saw that little yellow tray, so when I'm taking parts off the car, I put them on the tray when I took it off. And I just go basically in counterclockwise. So when I'm putting things back, I know exactly where things go at least, or when to put things back. So I'm putting everything on that tray in a reason. And if anybody kicks that tray, I'm in a lot of trouble. It would take me a minute to figure things out. So those are some more of the tools. And what I'm doing now is I'm using the needle nose pliers to reach down and get that hose clamp. Now I sped this up, but it actually took me a few days. It took a long time. I was watching another video of a YouTuber who did the same job, and he said, my hands and arms are all scraped up. And that is definitely the same thing that happened to me. My forearms and my hands are all scraped up, and that's me wiping up some of the antifreeze or coolant that, oh boy, that's my hose right there. That's the problem. I bought the heater hoses, and I just didn't go with OEM replacements. So it's actually 4 heater hoses. Four heater hoses. They're silicone, red, low sporty. Of the 4 that I bought, I really only needed this one. But if I replace one, I should attempt to replace all 4 and replace the clamps, because the last thing I want to do is for this thing to get hot and overheat and blow. So this hose, right, goes down. Let's get some light. So this hose goes down right over here. Let me see. Goes right over here, right? So I'm gonna replace that one. So not too bad. Now, the hose on this side that goes from the engine to the firewall and connects to the heater core is right there. Right, so that's one hose. So chances are, I think I showed you the wrong hose, but this is the hose. It goes right to the firewall, connects to the heater core. We're good to go. And then what everyone was saying was, this hose, there's a T connection, right, that connects this hose and this hose, right? It's a connection. I don't know why. Maybe there's a bleeder screw in certain cars, but the plastic connector from this hose to this hose, everyone told me that it leaks from there, it leaks from there, you should change it, you should change it, but mine wasn't leaking. So what I did was, I took a look and realized that yes, it was leaking. So then I attempted to take that plastic T out, and this is where projects go to problems. That little connector broke inside the hose, and now I have to take off the entire hose, which I probably wasn't going to do before, but now I have to take off the hose. And since I'm going to take off the hose, I'm going to replace it with, I think this is the other hose that goes to the engine, and I'm going to replace it with By the way, I think I gave you the wrong hose. So this is the hose that's going to go over here, I think. But I'm going to replace that bleeder screw, my box of tricks. So I'm going to replace it with this one. I've got this one also from Z1 Motorsports, and it's metal with a bleeder screw. So this should help when I'm trying to get the air out of the system. So I got that, and the other thing is I've been throwing a P300 coat for the longest. I replaced my plugs. What else did I do? Did I check the coil? Obviously I just did a visual check on the coils. I did not replace all those coil packs because they're pretty expensive. And I reset my engine, or I reset my computer, and it goes away. So usually when it's cold outside and I do a cold start, I've been getting a P100 coat. It's probably a vacuum leak somewhere, and I hope that the vacuum leak is right here. So this is my air intake tube that connects to the mass airflow. So basically it's right here. Let me see if I can get my hands right. Can I do it? Yep, so basically I'm replacing this part right here. And I'm going to replace this rubber with a silicone mass airflow that I also picked up from, it's not a mass airflow, it's a silicone air intake, cold air intake. So I'm going to replace it with this. Let's see what this looks like. Alright, and I got a left and a right. How do I know which is which? Well, one thing I'll tell you is there's no way this company would have this brand underneath. So chances are this Z1 is up top right. And here we go. It connects something like that. And then I'm not going with any special cold air intake because I do believe the cold air intake that came with the car is doing really well. So I'll replace that, and I'll do that on both sides, and we should be good to go. And basically that's it. So replace that, replace at least 3 to 4 of these heater hoses, and get the car running again and see what that looks like. Okay, that was a lot of talk. Obviously I'm doing a voiceover, so I had a chance to listen to that, and I wanted to shorten it and I wanted to cut it down a little bit, but for those people who are somewhat technical or who want to learn about how cars work in some fashion, it might be helpful. And I think everyone should just basically know how their engine works, or at the very least, when I turn that button on inside the car to heat the inside of my car, like when it's really cold outside, how does that work? So for those people who are interested, I'm going to see if I can tell you how it works without drawing diagrams and showing you all these pictures. So this is me getting real comfortable. Look at my socks. Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm in my garage. My Crocs fell off and I'm in a weird position, but I'm very comfortable. Like I said, this job took me a long time, so I've been there for a while. So this is how you get heat inside your car. So you may notice that when your car is cold, nothing works. The heat does not work. It doesn't help, right? So you have your engine. Your engine gets warm. So as your engine gets warm, you need coolant to take that heat away from the engine. If you don't take that heat away from the engine, your engine will overheat. And you've seen plenty of cars on the side of the road that have overheated. So yes, your car will overheat if you do not take that heat away from the engine. And the radiator, like at the front of the car, that big rectangle with fins, there is a hose running from the engine to the radiator. So you're taking the heat away from the engine and you're sending it to the radiator. And the radiator has two functions to cool that hot antifreeze or hot coolant. The first thing is you have electric fans, especially in the cars today, electric fans. When the car gets really hot, the fans turn on and it tries to cool the coolant. The other thing is it has a grill in the front, and as you move forward, cold air or cooler air, or just air in general, blows into the radiator and it will cool that hot fluid. So that's one way to cool the car down. But another thing is, someone said, well, since the engine is already hot, how about I get a tube from the engine inside the car and connect it to a little radiator and then blow air on that radiator and get some heat from the engine that way. And that's exactly what happens. Here I am, you could see messing with the hoses, but I didn't want to stop the story. You can see what's happening. This is me changing the hoses. So the engine is hot. This coolant circulates to the radiator at the front of the car. It tries to cool it down. When you turn the heat on inside the car, that same hot coolant circulates inside the cabin to a thing called a heater core. That heater core looks like a mini radiator with fins, and what's going to happen is that fluid is going to go in a series of S's, like a maze, right? And then a fan is going to blow just air on that series of S's, and it's going to blow whatever heat that's coming in from the engine inside your cabin. So that's how you get heat inside your car. And here comes another pro tip. Oh yeah, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know how I know all this stuff. My dad's a mechanic though. I don't know if he's watching this. Pro tip: if your car is overheating, you already know how to cool the car down, right? Up front, a car gets cooled down by the electronic fans or the air moving through the car. So if you're stuck in traffic, the only thing you can rely on is your fans. But the other thing, what you should do is turn the heat on full blast, as hot as you can stand it, inside your car. All right, let me slow down to normal speed. That's right, full blast inside your car. Now that I think back, that's probably the most important tip that I could have given you, at least if you watch this long. So here I am. All right, I'm in the video and I figured I have all my hoses off. I'm matching them up. I'm looking at my clamps to see how I'm going to orient these, and I am going to put them back all together. And I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned like what happens when you turn the heat on inside the car. Like, that is so important. And also what to do if your car overheats. Obviously you're going to check your temperature gauge, but those are some fundamentals that people don't tell you about. So, all right, that's all I have for this time. Stay tuned for the next video where I put this thing back together.